The British people have voted to lower immigration to the tens of thousands, where it was when I first here, over and over and over again. It doesn't matter whether you, I, Polly, Aaron, or anybody else thinks immigration should go up or down or should stay where it is. There is no mandate for what has happened in this country over the last 30 years, and there is no mandate in this country for what is happening today. There is no consent. It's anti-democratic and wrong and immoral.
Couldn't agree more. That's the bottom line. This brilliant debate was over whether immigration into Britain is good or bad. Luckily, we had two very capable people arguing it is a bad thing. These two, Constantine Kissin and the formidable Professor Matt Goodwin, leave no doubt that mass immigration into Britain is indeed a bad thing. They absolutely smash it. No one in their right mind who cares about Britain and its future can be pro-mass immigration after listening to this debate. Nobody is saying all immigration is bad, but the current levels are ridiculous, as is the type. This clip from the redoubtable Professor Goodwin was a prime example of why illegal immigration specifically is bad. Not so great is the ridiculous but entirely predictable response his opponent comes back with.
I'll give you two words. Abdel-Azidi. Let's start there. Abdel-Azidi was somebody who entered the country illegally. He applied for asylum twice, was rejected twice. He then committed a serious sexual assault. He then was convicted in a court and then applied for asylum for a third time and was this time accepted because a priest signed off on his application. Abdel-Azidi then took a car down to London and poured acid over a mother and two children, which, by the way, is why chemical attacks against women in Britain are now at the highest rate across Western democracies. We have the highest rates of chemical attacks against women in this country in the West. You don't hear that very often, by the way, in The Guardian, but it's true. Why is that? Why is that? It's because we're actively incentivizing people to come into this country who do not share our values, who do not want to live according to our ways of life, and who do not respect British law. The security services have said this very openly. They are monitoring daily many of the people who are coming into this country illegally. We need to get serious. We should leave any convention, international convention or court that prevents us from strengthening and securing our own national borders.
I think it's quite low to use anecdote instead of figures. Of course there are stories. Do you think there aren't stories about, all sorts of people who commit crimes, and you take someone who commits a crime and says, oh, well, that represents all migrants? I mean, it's not the way to conduct this argument. I think we've conducted this argument on a higher level than that on the whole.
Brilliant from the Professor. And a typical response you would expect from some of these lefties. Stop tarring all immigrants with the same brush, she says. Well, he didn't, because he talked about the rise in acid attacks. That is not down to one person, is it? Britain now has the highest rate of acid attacks in the world, apparently, not just Western countries. The top three before were Bangladesh, India, and Pakistan. British people haven't suddenly started going around acid attack mad, have they? It is because we have had mass immigration from those countries. We've imported the people and the acid attacks. This next clip is Constantine Kissin tearing apart the left's use of far right to label anyone who is not all for unlimited immigration.
I wanted to take 1 second to address something that makes my blood boil, which we've just heard, which is this idea that to oppose uncontrolled mass immigration is far right. I feel quite strongly about this as someone who lost Jewish relatives in the Holocaust. The term far right has quite a clear and defined meaning. in language. And the meaning is Nazis and people who believes that Jews should be murdered, and people who believes that gypsies should be murdered, and people who believe that disabled people should be murdered. That is who the far right is. 56% of this country was concerned about immigration in 2015 before Brexit, as I said. Are you telling me that 50% or more of this country is far right by the definition I just gave? The irresponsibility of people on the left who have thrown that term around, starting with people like David Lammy, who said that the ERG were worse than the far right. It's disgusting. These people have destroyed the meaning of the word, and they should be ashamed of themselves.
Again, brilliant. We all know these words have lost their meaning. Far right, bigot, racist, fascist, xenophobe. The far left use them as a way of smearing anyone who disagrees with them with the nastiest names possible in order to silence them. By calling someone a Nazi, they are saying this person is so evil and bad, they shouldn't even be allowed to speak, let alone taken seriously. It has to be said, however, the other opponent on the pro-immigration side, Aaron Bastani, impressed me and surprised me a lot, as his opponents acknowledged.
What's the upper limit?
Yeah, so on legal migration, I'd probably agree around 100 to 150,000. I think you'd probably want people in strategic industries.
Aaron, you should just be sitting over here.
Pardon?
We did say before the debate that Aaron is moving to the right, so...
Britain has 1.3 million more people as a result of net migration over the last 2 years. 1.3 million. And that was overseen by who as Home Secretary? Priti Patel. Britain's most liberal Home Secretary on migration in its history. There's a lesson for you with politicians. Don't listen to what they say, watch what they do. Especially with Tories.
Great point from Aaron. It seems like he has had a change of heart on the subject recently for whatever reason. I wish more lefties did. As I said, some immigration is most definitely good, but mass immigration in the form it's taking now is definitely not good for Britain. You'll be in no doubt about that after watching this debate.